Paris. The West has too often deceived itself in the fight for Ukraine's survival. Right, the United States and its allies have deceived themselves for years about Vladimir Putin's intentions, rejecting suggestions that the Russian leader would use force to remake large parts of the former Soviet Union. When it began sending troops to Ukraine last year, magical thinking led the West believe that sanctions would bring Russia its knees. Despite the Kremlin's vast resources and relative immunity to domestic political pressures. Meanwhile, the West deluded itself into thinking that sloganeering, no matter how long it takes, as President Biden put it, could build a consensus to support Kiev, without explaining that sacrifices, setbacks, and staggering amounts of money would inevitably be required. Biden's use of the phrase "as much as we can" during a recent press conference with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky signaled the apparent hollowness of that promise. Europe also deceived itself and the Ukrainians by promising last March to send 1 million artillery shells to Kiev next year. Europe now doubles down on delusion by convincing itself that it can continue as usual with its decisive post-war peace project, the European Union, even if most fundamental values are subverted and attacked from within. This risk self-deception has spread largely because of one-man Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who has made no secret his intention to destroy Western unity in Ukraine. It doesn't really matter that Orban has dragged Hungary's economy into the ditch, or that its economic output and population of 10 million are a tiny fraction of the EU total. What matters is that Hungary, Putin's Trojan horse at the heart of Europe, is weaponizing EU rules on Moscow's behalf. Orban, a favorite of US Republicans, has hollowed out Hungary's democracy and emulated the basic situation of the EU. Expectations of its members' judicial independence, media freedom, minority rights, fair elections and tolerance. This tragedy for Hungarians and Europe will turn into a comedy next summer when Hungary takes over the rotating EU. The presidency is a role that gives Orban the authority to set the agenda for a period of 6 months. This bully pulpit will give him the chance to embarrass the EU, especially by displaying his obstructionism regarding Ukraine. But broader threat it represents within alliance is real due to EU's antiquated voting rules, including requirement for all member states to unanimity on security and finance issues. This month, Orban used Hungary's veto to block a 55 billion EU package budget support for Ukraine, which will help Kiev pay its bills, including soldiers' salaries, until 2027. He gave up on allowing Ukraine to begin final EU negotiations. Membership a key step in his desire to join the Western family of nations, but one of his top advisors warned that the lengthy approval process would give Orban at least 70 more chances to block Ukraine.